Is there a chance Shohei Ohtani could play the outfield this year? Is there really a chance he might not pitch anymore after this year? Plus, potential trade targets this season, free agent targets next year, and a bunch more. Answering our listener questions on this live mailbag episode. Let's get into it. Let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks to our everydayers for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. And thanks to those of you who are joining us live tonight for this live mailbag episode. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. So please subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now. My name is Jeff Snyder. My co-host is Vince Semperio. Vince will be joining us shortly. He was at a soccer match tonight, and they put 9 minutes of stoppage time at the end of the second half. So he's a couple minutes behind, but he will be joining us any minute now. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like a lot of you. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room. So we're not quite insiders, but we're bringing the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. And that's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And speaking of getting started, we put out a call for questions. Our insiders came to us with a lot of good questions and stuff that we needed to talk about anyway. And so here we are talking about it. And Shohei Ohtani, there's a couple pretty interesting topics about him right now that are on people's minds. One for this season and one for the future. And I think I'll start with the future one first. Our buddy Michael Castro, a Locked On Dodgers insider. By the way, if you want to become an insider, just go to joinsubtext.com/lockedon. It's just a few bucks a month, and there's a free 14-day trial. It's a lot of fun. So check that out. Michael Castro says, are the reports about the Dodgers asking Shohei to not pitch true? Why would they want that? And I guess the short answer to that is probably not true. The way it was worded, this was Bob Nightingale. So already there's a grain of salt that we need to take because Bob Nightingale, he gets stuff right sometimes. And, he's not as clueless as the jokes make it seem, but it's Bob Nightingale. And what he said was, if the Dodgers were to ask Shohei Ohtani to stop pitching, he would be amenable to the idea. And what Nightingale said was that Shohei doesn't have the same passion for pitching that he does for hitting. And so he would be willing to give it up. He didn't say the Dodgers have asked him to, or even that they will ask him to. He said, if they asked him to, he would be open to the idea. And for me, it's hard for me to picture them asking him to stop pitching altogether unless he had another major arm injury, because the fact is the value he brings is greater when he's also pitching, because he's a very good pitcher and obviously a very good hitter too. And you could make a case, I guess, that he's a better hitter when he's not pitching, but I don't know that that's true. I mean, he's hit at an MVP level. Last year, he was a very, very good hitter, the best hitter in baseball, maybe, even though he was pitching. And so I don't think there's enough evidence to say that pitching is bad for his hitting. And I don't think they would really want him to stop pitching unless there was that evidence to say it is hurting you as a hitter. You're not, basically they'd have to do the math and say, you're more valuable to us purely as a hitter than as a hitter and a pitcher, because your hitting is that much better when you're not pitching. And I don't think there's the evidence to say that that's the case yet. And so I don't think there's any reason right now that the Dodgers would ask Shohei to stop pitching. Now, if he did have another major arm injury, that becomes a possibility, because when you have an arm injury, it takes you out of hitting too, at least for a while. Obviously, right now he's still recovering from the Tommy John surgery as a pitcher. He's obviously done recovering as a hitter. He's hitting great, but he missed time last year, and he would have missed time anyway. Like when he had the Tommy John surgery, he was going to miss time as a hitter. And I don't think they want him to miss time. And so if there was another case of him having a major arm injury, then yeah, I think they start thinking about that. I kind of have said when the Dodgers signed him to 10 years, my thought was, knowing he's not pitching the first year of it. So then that's 9 years left. My thought was, I think they're hoping to get 4 or 5 years of pitching out of him. And I think I stand by that. And obviously, if they got 9 years of pitching out of him and he was elite at pitching and elite at hitting, they'd be very thrilled with that. I don't think their calculation was, we need 10 years of a hitter and 9 years of a pitcher to make this worth it to us. And the fact is, with all the endorsements and everything, the money that the Dodgers are paying Shohei Ohtani, it's already paying for itself. Yeah, there's the luxury tax implications and stuff, but Shohei Ohtani is the biggest bargain in baseball. When you factor in the on-field production and the money they're bringing in from we don't know exactly how much they're bringing in on all these sponsorship deals, but Shohei Ohtani is paying for himself. Absolutely. And that's without pitching right now. Now, part of his allure and part of the mystique of the best player in baseball is that he also pitches. And so I'm sure they want him to pitch at least a year or two before they were to pull the plug. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if 4 or 5 years down the road, if he is not pitching anymore. And my buddy Vince just got here. Let's get Vince in here. You click that button, I'll click this button. There we are. Hey, Vince, how you doing?
Yo, what's up?
We were just talking about Shohei Ohtani's future as a pitcher. So I talked about that one, but let's jump into our other Shohei Ohtani question that we had from an insider. This one comes from, who is this one from? This is from David Z from Cleveland, Tennessee. And he says, we've heard rumblings of Shohei possibly playing games in the outfield at the beginning of the season. Since then, word on the topic seems to be radio silent. Do you think Shohei would actually be willing to play in the outfield? Is it even still in the realm of possibility at this point? And, Vince, you and I talked about this earlier, at the beginning of the season, and we really didn't think it was much of a possibility. I feel like I'm getting closer to thinking it's a possibility just because of what they have and knowing that, if they depend on who was available on the trade market. For example, hypothetically speaking, if they went after Nolan Arenado, Cardinals are bad again. If they went and got Nolan Arenado, shift Max Muncy to DH, shift Shohei Ohtani to the outfield, I think that would be pretty awesome. The challenge I see, Vince, and tell me if you agree, is I don't think there's any way that we'll know if Shohei can play outfield by the trade deadline. And that's when they would need to make that call on an Arenado trade, for example.
Yeah, in terms of the radio silence, it's just dependent on how his throwing program going. We haven't heard about it in a while. I post every time I'm at a game and he does throw, I try to post it. So at the very least, we know he's still throwing, at least once a week or once every few days, whatever it is. So I think in the possibility of that sense, and I think right now in the fact that they kind of need an outfielder or another bat, and if there's a different way to get a bat that, could be remedied by Ohtani playing outfield, I definitely think it's more of a possibility than maybe we thought before. But it's also one of those things where, and it's also like, I'm sure you test about this right now about him pitching, but seeing how good he's been hitting this year and thinking like, okay, if we throw him in the outfield, if he does hurt his arm again, it's not necessarily the worst thing if, we still have him as the hitter that he is, especially if at that point in the season, he's still, hitting the way he is now. So, yeah, I think, I don't know what, realistically, he wouldn't be ready to pitch, not this year, maybe not till next year, but throwing the ball enough capably from the outfield position, I don't know.
Yeah, it would have to be left field. I assume that's the shortest throws. And yeah, I thought there was a 0% chance at the beginning of the season, even when Dave Roberts said there's a chance. I think I'm up to thinking there's a 10% chance now, just because how things fall. I feel like it could be a situation where it actually makes sense for the Dodgers. And, I didn't foresee that. And really that's all Dave Roberts ever said was if we needed him to. So yeah, I guess I'm just more inclined to think they might need him to. So, but that leads into our next segment, We're going to talk about potential trade targets to fill some of these gaps. So thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by Ibotta. This spring, flowers won't be the only thing you're growing. When you use Ibotta, you can watch your cash back grow with every purchase you make. Ibotta is a free app that gives you the most cash back every time you shop on hundreds of items, from groceries to beauty supplies to toys. You're going to be buying this stuff anyway. You might as well make sure you're beating inflation by getting cash back on it. The average Ibotta user earns $256 a year. That could cover the cost of a shopping trip, a plane ticket, a Dodger game, or the fancy dinner you've been craving. Join the over 50 million users that earn cash back every time you shop from over 2,700 brands and retailers, including all your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta by using code LOCKEDONMLB when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play and download the free Ibotta app and to start earning cash back, and use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store, and use code LOCKEDONMLB. This episode is also brought to you by Supply House. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your front door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business, and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trademaster program. Every Trademaster gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at supplyhouse.com/T-M and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at supplyhouse.com. Hey, we are back. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Especially thanks to our everydayers. You can become an everydayer by watching or listening every weekday morning, and make that easy on yourself by subscribing wherever you're watching or listening right now. Again, we want to thank those of you who are with us live here tonight. We've really been enjoying these live shows and plan to keep doing a lot of them. Maybe not every night, but a lot of nights. So also, you can become a Locked On Dodgers insider. All of our questions today are coming from our insiders. You can go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers to become an insider. It's just a few bucks a month, a free 14-day trial, and you can text directly with us and get your questions answered on the show. Also, check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, the two 24/7 YouTube channels over from the Locked On Podcast Network, and catch every pitch of every Dodger game on SiriusXM or the SXM app simply by searching for Dodgers. Our next question, Vince, is two questions in one. It's from our buddy Pat Dwyer, and he says, I know the chatter is about Bo Bichette, but how about a deal for Dalton Varsho? He's a competent MLB hitter with some pop, maybe even dust off the catching gear, and a above average outfielder, of course. So we'll get to Dalton Varsho, but first I want to talk about Bo Bichette, because when we talk about potential outfield solutions, one of them is right in front of our face, and I just popped it up on the screen. Alfonso Lucio in the chat says he likes the idea of Mookie Betts in right field more than Shohei Ohtani in the outfield. And I think Mookie in right field is more likely. And if the Dodgers were to acquire Bo Bichette, like we talked about, Gavin Lux is turning things on. He's getting better. If they acquired Bo Bichette, they could just shift Mookie back to the outfield and leave Lux in the lineup along with Bichette and Mookie. What do you think about that, Vince?
Yeah, I mean, that's an ideal world in the sense of Lux is hitting well enough to warrant staying at second base. It's one of those things where Mookie's around for the long haul. He's here. He's done everything they've asked of him, and he wanted to play shortstop. I don't know if he still feels that way at this current moment, but he definitely seemed to want to play infield. So him going back to the outfield, he'd be fine with it. But it's one of those things where it's just, I bet on his part it would be annoying to a certain degree, but he's all about winning, so it wouldn't really matter ultimately. The thing with Bichette specifically is obviously that he's not had a great season so far this year. He's hitting better of late. over the last 2 weeks, he's OPSing 881, hitting 328. Got some homers in there, cut down on his strikeouts. So at the very least, maybe he's on the way up. He does have a year and a half of control, so you get a little bit of control with it, which would make it cost more, but the Dodgers have enough to get it done. And you kind of look at the Savant page for him, and he's still hitting the ball relatively hard. He's almost up 78th percentile and hitting the ball hard. He's pretty low in some other stuff. Exit velocity is still up there. He doesn't strike out a lot. He doesn't swing and miss a lot. So the very least, the profile fits, and you always expect guys to get a little better when they join the Dodgers. So you would hope that's the case. So in terms of a one-stop solution, this makes the most sense, assuming, like I said, Lux is hitting well, and with the Adames probably not on the radar anymore if the Brewers keep winning. I don't know if there's any other viable, legitimate shortstop that the Dodgers can go out and get.
Yeah, the one way that Bichette doesn't totally fit the profile is he doesn't walk much, but he walks more than Andy Pages. And if Andy Pages was the odd man out in that equation, it's still a step up in the walks department. The other half of the Pat's question about Dalton Varsho, who's also on the Blue Jays, I like Varsho a lot as a player. He's a great defensive outfielder, and he does hit well against right-handed pitching, which is most pitchers. The issue with Varsho is he doesn't hit lefties very well at all, and he's not a great hitter against righties. He's above average against righties, which would be, again, a step up from a lot of what the Dodgers have had in the outfield this year. If you look at him, if you look at Dalton Varsho as a James Outman replacement, what the Dodgers got from James Outman this year, Varsho would be a step up offensively and defensively. And so in that way, yeah, he's definitely a better option. I don't think, Pat mentions that Varsho used to be a catcher. I don't think the Dodgers would need Varsho to dust off the catcher's gear, except maybe, if they, I don't know. They've got so many catchers on the 40-man roster anyway. I don't see him catching much. But what do you think of the Dalton Varsho idea?
It's, one of those where, yes, you're getting better, in the sense of you're replacing somebody with somebody that's not hitting as well or not as good. With him having so much team control, you worry about cost a little bit. And is it enough of an upgrade to justify what a potential cost would be? Him too, this year specifically, he's not even hitting that great against. He's actually hitting better against lefties this year than righties. Obviously, he's hit a lot less again, and about 100 at bat difference between righties and lefties. But yeah, it's one of those things where if you can get him thrown into a Bichette trade, or you get him for cheaper than the number of years he has left until free agency, then it's something that you can explore for sure. I just don't know if it's at this point, every upgrade is an upgrade on the margins. You have 6 set guys between 1 through 6 in the order. If you can improve that 7, 8, 9 in some way, whether it be by guys playing better or by acquiring better talent, then yes, it makes sense. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and he has 37 plate appearances against lefty this year.
It's very small.
Yeah, it's a small sample. So yeah, if I could be sure that he was going to, because he's been a little above average against righties and lefties this year. He can play center field. If I could be sure he's going to be a great defensive center fielder and a little above average offensively against both hands, I'd be all about it. I just I'm not quite willing to buy that this is the real Dalton Varsho. There's other options. I'm really interested to see as we go forward. We've got basically a little over 2 months until the trade deadline. And so it's still pretty early in the season. And I wonder, the Padres already pulled the trade for Luis Ariz. Will other teams start selling? I don't know that the Marlins have anybody. We know they're selling. I don't know that they have anybody. Jazz Chisholm doesn't excite me. I like Jazz Chisholm. I don't think he fits as a Dodger. And so other than that, I don't know that they have anybody really offensively. Obviously, Tanner Scott is a guy who they might target, but offensively to help the offense, I'm not sure who's going to be available at the trade deadline. And I think over the next month, at least month and a half, I would guess by the end of June, we will start to have a feeling for who thinks they're going to be selling. And the Dodgers will get an idea. Maybe maybe some team goes on a big losing streak between now and then, and suddenly a different shortstop who we haven't thought about comes available. There a lot of stuff can happen, and I do think, and maybe this is a segue into our next segment, because we do have a question about our current level of concern about the offense, and so we can dig into that. So yeah, let's take our next break, and we will come back. We'll answer our last couple of questions for the insiders, and keep chatting in the chat. So thanks again for making us your first listen, and please keep it locked on Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's right. If you look on FanDuel, you see a bet and you are sure you know the answer, put $5 on it. And if you win, that you get $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. It's just free money. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Hey, we're back. Thanks again for making us your first listen every day. Thanks to our folks who are here live with us. Please become an everyday by watching and listening every weekday morning. Make that easier by subscribing wherever you're watching or listening right now. Become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers, and check out Locked On Sports Day and Locked On Sports Los Angeles over on YouTube, and catch every pitch of every Dodger game on SiriusXM or the SXM app by searching for Dodgers. You can also listen to this podcast on the SXM app by searching for Locked On Dodgers. So our next question comes from Dallas from Johnson City, Tennessee, who always makes me want to sing Wagon Wheel by Darius Rucker, because he sings about Johnson City, Tennessee, which is also apparently there's a university there. I can't remember which school, but some schools there. Anyway, he says, on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being not concerned at all and 10 being panic button, blow it up, how concerned are you about the recent offensive struggles for the Dodgers?
Well, if it was October, it'd be a 10, like every year. In May right now, it's probably like a 4, just because there's no pathway to getting better unless guys start playing better. And that's not like, it's not injuries. It's not, anything, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's literally guys just have to start playing better. And if they don't, then the Dodgers would be in a tough spot, because you can't trade for, you could, but there's not going to be 3 trades available to upgrade your order and everything else. So it's one of those things where there's always going to be concern when the offense is bad. And, when you have a top 4 like the Dodgers have, I don't think your concern can ever get too high unless those guys start struggling for an extended period of time. But I do think that the main concern for me is that you need guys to turn it around, and that's not always the case that's going to happen.
Yeah, and that is the level of concern. When he puts 10 at panic button, blow it up, that's automatically going to lower my number, because Dodgers are too good to be that way. The Dodgers are still, the odds-on favorite to win the National League West easily. And, I said this in the chat yesterday when my voice didn't work well enough to talk with you. Most years, our concern is that the way the Dodgers are playing in May doesn't tell us anything about the way they're going to play in October. This year, that's good news, because right now they're not playing well. They're not hitting well, even though, they went 7-6 in this 13-game stretch. They're still finding ways to win more than they lose. I think there's probably 18 teams in baseball that would love to have a 7-6 13-game stretch, but the standards obviously that we have for the Dodgers are higher. And the fact is, how they're playing right now doesn't tell us anything about how they're going to play in October. I do expect Freddie Freeman to get significantly better this regular season. Then in October, it's all going to come down to who's hot at the right time. And that's something that the Dodgers could win every game the rest of the season, and there would still be the same exact chance that they would go cold in October. And the chance would be higher than 0 and lower than Vince thinks. So somewhere in between there is the chance of them going cold. I don't think there's any inherent problem with the Dodgers in October that makes them go cold. It's just, and you can even look, and it sounds like excuses to people, but 2021, they lost Max Muncy and Clayton Kershaw the last weekend of the season. Last year, Julio gets suspended or, whatever, at the end of the season. And Kershaw wasn't healthy. And suddenly you do have, Lance Lynn starting game 3 of a series and Kershaw getting lit up in a playoff game. There's things that happen, and all we can do is hope that they will be healthy in October and be on. And let's see what BC's saying. People say it's about getting hot. The last few years, dominant regular season teams have won the World Series. Last year, the Rangers finished tied for a playoff spot. They got into the playoffs because Major League Baseball doesn't play for the tiebreakers anymore. They want a mathematical tiebreaker to even get into the playoffs. 3 of the 4 teams in the championship series, maybe all 4 teams, nobody won more than 90 games, even made it to the ALCS or NLCS. Yeah, they're good teams. Only good teams make it to the playoffs for the most part. But these aren't the dominant teams. The fact is, last year it was the Rangers who won, 88 games in the regular season?
Yeah, D-backs won 84.
Yeah, D-backs won 84. And the year before that, it was the Astros who, the Astros were good that year. In 2021, it was the Braves who won, 88 games?
Yeah, 88.
88 games. 2020, Dodgers were dominant and they won. 2019, Nationals were a wild card team and they won it because they got hot at the right time and Dave Roberts thought Clayton Kershaw needed to pitch that game. It's not dominant teams. It really is who gets hot. And so that's why my concern level is pretty low, because I'd say I'm a 3, because I think the Dodgers are going to win the division and they have 3.5 more months to figure things out, to put together the best team possible, to be ready for October. And then all we can do is cross our fingers and hope that they're healthy and hot at the right time.
Yeah. And again, I'll say this. If my panic meter could be 1 right now, and I would be like, I'm not concerned, that's regular season. Once it gets to October, my panic meter's out of 10, no matter what. Like, even if the Dodgers won 162-0, I would not feel comfortable going into the playoffs. That's just the nature of, 1, how I think, but 2, just how it goes. Like, if there was a formula to winning and being able to hit in the postseason, somebody would have figured it out. And if they had figured it out, that person would be the highest paid person in baseball, and they'd be try to get contracted by almost every team. So it's one of those things where there's no rhyme or reason to it. The Dodgers have had great teams. They've had okay teams. And, even baseball is different now, but you think about like the 2008, 2009 Dodgers, like back then, and I had no hopes of those teams winning, and they didn't have to win a wild card, and then it was a different playoff format back then. But they both made NLCS appearances, and you compare those teams to some of the Dodgers teams that they've had, in recent years. Like, the talent disparity is so different, and it's just one of those where they had a different playoff system, and they had to win one series, and they did win that one series, and whatever the case happened. But yeah, I mean, you look at 2021 and you look at Braves, Dodgers, NLCS, and obviously the Dodgers had an intense season that year. And you think about, they had a fight with Giants all year, and then they had to play, win a wild card game that they won on a walk-off, and then they had to go play the Giants, and that went to 5 games. And then they play the Braves, who were hot, at the moment. And even those first 2 games it came down to walk-offs, like the Braves walked off. And that's only because, and the Dodgers were 18 games better than them in the regular season, but they had to go play in Atlanta because of the way the thing was, and the Atlanta walked them off both times. So I don't know. You're never going to convince me that there's some formula for the postseason, but you won't convince me that the Dodgers aren't going to be a good regular season team for now.
Yeah, if there was a formula to the postseason, it wouldn't be a different team winning the World Series every year, because what works one year doesn't work the next year. It's not. Yeah, there's no formula. It just put together the best team you can and hope they're healthy and hope they play well in October. And there may be little things they could do on the margins, but that's the main thing. Our last question, we'll just spend a minute on it. This one comes from Namini Gatimu in Ventura County. What do you think of the Dodgers maybe signing Juan Soto this offseason, now that the Yankees owner has said that maintaining their payroll is not, what do you say, not financially feasible or something? It was, yeah. So maybe the Yankees are out on Juan Soto next year. What do you think, Vince?
Obviously I would welcome it, but feasibly, realistically, I don't think it would happen unless the price came down to a certain price point, which I don't think it would happen. I think Steve Cohen is going to feel the pressure if nobody else is in on Juan Soto and wants to spend it. But I would welcome it. It's one of those things where you've seen Soto now in 3 different teams, and he's produced in all 3 teams, but the one team that didn't win necessarily when he was there was the Padres. And, now that we've kind of found out and seen that, maybe that team wasn't the most cohesive unit, and you might have thought, well, maybe it's, Juan Soto was an issue, but then now he's with the Yankees and they're winning and, playing better than people expected, them missing their ace, and Aaron Judge didn't get hot until these last couple of weeks. And, he was kind of carrying that offense. So yeah, he'd be obviously fun to have. I just don't see it realistically.
Yeah, especially because the defense is bad. And so, I guess if Shohei Ohtani became an outfielder, maybe Soto could be the Dodgers DH. And his defense probably isn't so bad in left field that he would cost them more. I mean, he'd still be an upgrade for the team. And his hitting
style, better defensively this year.
Yeah, but Yankee Stadium has a weird outfield. I have a hard time trusting Yankee Stadium outfield defensive metrics.
Symmetrical stadium, Dodger Stadium symmetrical.
Yeah, it's symmetrical but smaller. So, but it's and maybe he is a better defensive outfielder now. We'd have to see, but yeah, if the Dodgers want to just lean into the evil empire thing, that would be the way to do it. After the money they spent this last offseason, go get Juan Soto. Why not? And with all the money they're making, if it's just luxury tax, because like I said in the first segment, Dodgers are making a ton of money on Shohei Ohtani, and so there's money to spend. And so, you know what?
You add one Ohtani bobblehead a month, that'll pay for Juan Soto.
You'd have to build an annex to the stadium to fit more people in.
Yeah.
You could do it, or do 2 a month, do back-to-back days, and just, do a Shohei Ohtani bobblehead every game, and just know you're getting 53,000 fans a game. I don't know. The Angels tried that approach. I think they did like 6 Ohtani bobbleheads one of those years, and it was Angel Stadium. They only did 10,000 per game, and so 20,000 people showed up to the games, and everybody was happy. I guess I have one of those back there somewhere, but yeah. So we'll see. That's for next offseason. A lot to come this coming season, and hopefully Dodgers are going to turn the corner, go into the Great American Ballpark. It might help the offense break out a little bit. Freddie Freeman, I think the breakout's coming for Freeman, maybe as soon as this weekend. So hopefully Dodgers get hot again and start making us feel better about everything. You got anything else for today, Vince?
No. Looking forward to seeing the games and hopefully shutting down Ellie De La Cruz again.
Yep, I hope so. That'll do it for us. Thank you all for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. Thank you to all of you here in the chat with us. We appreciate you being live with us pretty much every day. A bunch of you, we see you almost every day, so we appreciate that. Become an everydayer by watching and listening every weekday morning. Make that easier by subscribing wherever you're watching and listening right now. You can become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles over on YouTube, 2 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network. Catch every pitch of every Dodger game on SiriusXM or the SXM app. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Vince is on Twitter at VinceSince91. I'm on Twitter at Snydog. Both of our DMs are open there. You can also email us, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or send us a voicemail or a text message to 323-863-LOCK, 5625. We are here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We'll talk to you on Monday.
Have a good one.